Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan. And I have dedicated the very beginning of this episode for Cranky to just go ahead and gloat for his national championship, Florida Gators winning March Madness, taking one home. Now the bar's been raised for football, huh?
The bar has been raised. We are now the first program in Division I history to have 3 national champions in football and 3 in basketball. I was in San Antonio all weekend. That's why we're doing this show a little late in the week. We apologize, but a fantastic time. You know, two nail biters, but in the end, good always beats evil, and your Florida Gators are national champions where we deserve. So I'm in a very good mood. No matter how bad the Giants are, no matter how bad all my other teams might be at the moment, I'm a national champion again.
That was shorter than I thought. I thought there'd be some digs against other programs. I thought there would be.
I'm not going to get into how much Florida State's a piece of shit school. I'm not going to get into the fact that Georgia's had how many arrests this year, drunk drivings and just, the complete punks they are. I'm not going to get into Miami with, the gutter punks they are in South Florida. I'm not going to get into any of that. It's not the time or place. This is about basking in glory. And, the Final Four is actually a really cool event because, first of all, it's not that expensive to go to. I mean, if you go to a Super Bowl, that's astronomical in cost, and even the college football playoff super expensive. You can get in to a Final Four, relatively inexpensively. It's in a football stadium, and you have 4 teams, and when the 2 teams lose on Saturday, tickets flood the market, and you can get in for pretty, a song and dance to get in, and it has a different feel than going like to a Super Bowl or going to a college football game. Everybody's in a pretty good mood. Like we were playing Auburn on Saturday, and Florida and Auburn hate each other, but everybody was pretty civil and just kind of like, this is cool, this is fun. So that made the weekend a nice event. And San Antonio is a great town. Grump, you ever been there or?
No, I have not. I've only been to Dallas and Austin in Texas. So
Yeah, it's great because it's one of those perfect cities if you have to go to a convention or a sporting event, because the dome is right in downtown. It's like a 5-minute walk, and there's this river walk. There's like an old river that they kind of made like both sides of it, these big sidewalks and restaurants and bars all along it. It's a whole like party area. And in fact, after the game Monday night, like at 1:30 in the morning, they had a boat parade where the team, just floated down the river with the trophy, and the cheerleaders are on a boat, and the coaches and everything. So it's a really cool setup. So I hope San Antonio stays in the rotation for Final Fours. I mean, the Alamo Dome's a shithole. I know they do the which one of the recruiting, the All-Star games? One of those is there. I think the All-American game or one of those.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dump. I mean, they'll never have an NFL team. But for Final Four purposes,
what's wrong with it? It's just old, right?
Yeah, it's got really weird sight lines. Like it's kind of like, it's almost like a soccer stadium. Like there's sideline, and an end zone right here. It doesn't like wrap around. It doesn't have any. The concourses are tiny. There's no food options. I think they're limited in club seats and in boxes and everything. But for what it has, for the Alamo Bowl and for having a Final Four every 5 years, it's perfectly fine. But it's not going to get, you're not going to get a World Cup there, or you're not going to get a Super Bowl there ever.
Nah, but I mean, it's also, I think like as Americans, we're pretty spoiled that like so many cities have stadiums with capacities over 50,000.
Oh yeah, I mean, even England, you think of soccer, the average Premier League stadium only holds like 35,000. I mean,
right, yeah, it's basically a baseball park.
Yeah, there's exceptions, like Tottenham's got a 60,000, and Arsenal and stuff, but most of them are not that big. So
we like talk about this all the time. Like, there are very few countries around the world that are really truly equipped to host the Olympics.
Sure.
I mean, like when you really think about it, there's not that many. And as like Americans, we're just sort of spoiled that, like, I don't want to say spoiled, but like we're just accustomed to every state having a city that's big enough for a stadium that's that huge, where you can host
Yeah.
so many large events for large audiences all at once that are all relatively close. I mean, outside of what, like France, Germany, England, maybe Spain, I don't even think like Italy has that many. Like, it's really not that common to have.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons LA got the bid and why it's going to, for the Olympics in 3 years, and why they're going to make money on it is they have to spend for infrastructure. They have the dome for opening events. They have, two new arenas. They have all the infrastructure from either previous Olympics or just all the teams there building new things. So those are all in place. It's
Right.
just logistics and things now.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because it's like, you're saying it's like a dump, and I had never been there. So, like, everything you're describing is like, well, I mean, just a run of the mill stadium in like
Well,
other countries.
yeah. But I mean, you think of the rotation of where major events are. Like
Oh,
if you
of
think
course.
about,
Yeah.
think the new domes in LA and Vegas. They completely refurbished the one in Miami. The Superdome's been rebuilt. Jacksonville's going to have this state of the art stadium coming up. Obviously Arlington is state of the art. Minnesota, all these places, they are just. But again, it's not just the concourses are wide. It all comes back to revenue. Hundreds of boxes, hundreds of club level, you know, thousands and thousands of point of sale things. All these things that just, they're cash registers for owners and for events to have.
Well, the Giants aren't playing in San Antonio anytime soon. So, I mean,
Or
I'll
or a
give.
Super Bowl anytime soon. So.
So, well, I mean, this is your chance to wrap up. Any other? Is there any outstanding Florida Gator stuff you want to say before we move on to our New York Giants here?
Other than it's great to be a Florida Gator. So that's it.
All
I
right.
don't have to rub it in too much. So I'm
Well,
happy.
so we're entering. We're beyond entering. We're in draft month. So we are now.
We're in it.
What are
Season.
we, like 2.5 weeks away?
Yeah, I mean, I've been singing draft carols all month now. I have the tree up, my wish list to Santa. So we're in it.
You do the 12 days of NFL draft of draft day. I mean, with
Exactly.
what the hell's his name? Not Kevin Bacon. What the hell's his name?
I
Who's
don't
the
know what
guy?
you're talking.
The movie Draft Day, dog. What's his name?
Oh, Kevin Costner,
Costner. That's it. I want to say Kevin Bacon. Whatever. Um,
Sonny,
Sonny,
Sonny, not Sonny Dykes,
not
Sonny,
Sonny Moore. Whatever.
Sonny, him.
Yeah, Pancake, Mr. Pancakes.
Wow.
Um, so it's that time, and the Giants hold the number 3 pick. At one point, they had the number 1 overall pick. It was like a consensus they were going for the top player in the draft. They had their pick at whatever. It didn't work that way. And I know I see you shaking your head, and they should have. I don't know, man. We're gonna get into the top quarterbacks here. I honestly think that this is the best outcome, is that they didn't have the first overall pick.
Explain that.
I don't
Why do
really
you think that?
because there are no quarterbacks in here that are Andrew Luck. There are none. All of these guys carry more risk than the average NFL first rounder.
Well, I see. I look at it a little broader than that. To me, having the first pick means you have the option to do whatever you want. You're
True,
not.
but
You're
having
not.
three, the trade off from 1 to 3 there is not the same trade off of, well, I get the top guy and no one can do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean,
What you can trade away from the third, or trade, like, I don't know. It's not what you get in quarterback selection from 1 to 3 is huge, that gap. But what you can do with the first overall pick and the third overall pick, that gap to me is not that huge. You know what I
fair.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I know my biggest need on my team is quarterback, I at least want to have the option to know that I have carte blanche on getting whoever I want in this draft, or deferring to a future. I just want to have options, and I just think that, again, for winning a meaningless game in December, is that cute little sugar high that you got, but there were ramifications. And I think right now it may not be, Cam Ward may not be the franchise altering miss that maybe getting an Andrew Luck or a Peyton Manning might have been, but it has ramifications on our decision making process for this draft and maybe the next draft too. So that's all.
Yeah, but I still think this
It's
puts
worthy
them.
of a shaking my head. Yeah.
But here's the thing. You have the first overall pick. You have your shot at the quarterback. And every year there is a quarterback that's going to be the guy. And even if we say in December after the college season is over, there's and we heard this. We heard this all last year. This isn't a quarterback draft. This isn't a quarterback draft. And now all of a sudden there's like 4 quarterbacks that everybody's fighting over, and we're all talking ourselves into quarterbacks. You have that first overall pick. Sure, you have carte blanche to do whatever. Here's what you're going to end up doing: talking yourself into picking the guy. That's it. Sure, you could trade out, but no one ever does.
But here's the other thing too. We're limiting this conversation to quarterback. What if they were drooling over Travis Hunter?
So here's the thing. They should be drooling over Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are better prospects than all of these quarterbacks. But no one, I am willing to bet money that neither one of them is going first overall.
Okay, but we dropped from 1 to 3. So if Travis Hunter goes 2, we cost ourselves him at 2. That's what I'm saying.
True, but you have 2 prospects that are better than the next quarterback.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm just saying, what I'm saying is the gap from 1 to 3 in terms of, quote, what you can do with it is not the same gap as the first quarterback and the third quarterback. Mm-hmm. Or even the first quarterback and the second quarterback.
I look at the debate about this in my head is, was that win worth it? I mean,
no. But that's okay. But now my position is they're not picking first means they're actually going to have to think about what to do instead of talk themselves into getting the guy, which is what always happens with the guy in the first. How many non-quarterbacks were picked first overall in the last 15 years? Davian Clowney, J.J. Watt, and who? There's more, but I can't even think of them off the top of my head.
There was a tackle, I think, one year. I mean,
and how many of these guys flame out? So
yeah.
So
the flame out again, that's the risk everybody takes with every draft.
Yes, I understand that, but I don't know. If for this particular year, I'm not saying it was smart to win. That's not the position. I'm saying the best overall outcome for me is that they were put in a position where they were really, 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 really going to have to figure stuff out. And because they are picking very high but not first overall, this put them in a position to account for a lot of different outcomes.
I think in any other year, I would agree with you a little bit more. But the fact is, I think there is, whether it's perceived or internal pressure to, again, I always go back to sell win or sell hope. And I think a quarterback could do one of those two things.
That doesn't mean they're out of the market on a quarterback, though.
I know. But again, you can't get the best quarterback in it. And that's my only point is, if I wanted to have the option of, if I decide to go quarterback, I can get the best one. And now we can't.
Well, we don't know that. We still don't know who's going first overall.
We don't.
But I don't know. To me,
I throw money on Cam.
That's fine. That's fine, and I would too. My point is, I think that them picking first overall, especially when I have the exact opposite opinion of you. They knew they needed a quarterback, therefore they were definitely going to talk themselves into it. Now, is that the best guy for them? I don't know, but I think at this point they put themselves in a very, very good position. Well, here's what I mean. Fine, they could get themselves the best quarterback in this draft, but would they have signed Russell Wilson? Would they have signed Jameis Winston? If they knew that, if they had the first overall pick, would they have signed those guys? Or would they be throwing Cam Ward to the Wolves where he doesn't belong? And we're going to get into each of these quarterbacks, and I've done my work on 4 or 5 of them. I don't remember. What did I say? 5? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Here.
So, yeah, I don't think any of these guys, let me just start with this as my general thing. Not one of these guys should be a starter on day one in an ideal scenario. None of them. Mm-hmm. And if the Giants had the first overall pick, I am not convinced that they would be in a situation to treat that accordingly.
Well, and I think also from experience in the last couple of years is how thin that quarterback room has been. I still think they would have got I think a Jameis is much more likely to still be on this roster regardless if we had the number 1 pick or the number 3 pick.
100%. But
would they have gone for Russell Wilson? Probably not.
Right. And I mean, it is possible also. So let's go through this, right? There is the distinct possibility that the Giants entirely punt on the quarterback position this year, and they can. I'm not sure that it's the move I would make, but they're perfectly okay ignoring that spot, building the team better, rolling with Russell Wilson this year with Jameis Winston as the backup, with Jameis Winston potentially being the starter next year, or just a continued backup for a drafted quarterback next year. They're perfectly okay doing that. Now, of course,
I think they set themselves up to do that. But if you know, you never know. I mean, they could get a phone call the day before from Tennessee saying, "I'm just curious, what would it take?" And all of a sudden you change your mind.
and that's
I
still
mean,
on the table. I mean, so
sure.
that's another option is they can still trade up to 1 from 3. It's not that much. Will they have to give up stuff? Yeah, sure, of course, they
The
always
bottom
do.
line, the bottom line is, if they're in love with a quarterback, go get him. Either
Okay,
whether the rest of the world thinks he's great or thinks this is a bad year or something, if they love him, if they and again, I don't think it's a question. They're not in a position to have to fall in love with anyone. That I'll agree with you with your A, with going to 3, and B, signing the 2 guys that they did sign. They don't have to fall in love with anybody, but that doesn't mean they won't. And if they do,
sure, of
go
course.
get them.
But if you do, then you do, and that's. I mean, if you do, then you were going to do that anyway. So
Yeah.
if you truly love everything about him, then. And that's sort of my position here. I think the Giants are in the position to only have to take guys that they fall in love with. They are not so far away that they can't trade up without mortgaging the entire future to move from 3 to 1. I know it's going to take important things like next year's first or something like that, but listen, the Patriots were fined a first round pick like year after year. And they continued to win Super Bowls when they were picking 32nd. So look, you can get by
into the second round. Yeah,
you can get by fucking trading your first round. It's not the end of the world. You are not mortgaging everything away to move up. Just be sure you know what you're doing. That's it. And ultimately, when we get into this conversation about these 6 quarterbacks, is we are not picking anything more than people. So fall in love with the person. If you think that they're the guy, they can run your offense the way you want, they're the future, then do it. I am not of the opinion. I mean, like, I'm gonna be a little bit real about this. Like, there are guys that I think if the quarterback position were not so important, they would have a different draft grade, right? Like,
sure.
Whatever. But I'm a realist. That just isn't reality. It is the most important position possibly in all of sports, definitely in football. And therefore it is inflated, but I don't deflate it. Like, Brock Purdy to me is like probably a late second, early third round grade guy. There is no reason that man should have been Mr. Irrelevant. Why is he that way? Because he has, 4 or 5 traits that are NFL ready. And he has the work ethic and brain to continue to develop the other traits he doesn't quite have. And in the right system, he can be so you can win with him. That's the same as any second, third round player at any other position. They are functional starters. You hope that that they can be a backup for their first year, a second round. If you were taking a tackle in the early third round, you're not really expecting a third round tackle to be starting his rookie year, but you're definitely hoping that he's a part of your future, and he's probably not going to be an all pro, right? A third round tackle? No, but he could be a solid starter for you. Absolutely. And that's what I mean by that draft grade. So what that means to me is, at the end of the day, forget my draft grade on where they're going, where I have them graded out. Mm. If you like the quarterback, take the fucking quarterback. Just take him. Yeah. I disagree with the notion about Daniel Jones and where he was drafted. If you don't like Daniel Jones, it's a perfectly valid argument to have. And we can discuss the traits he does have, the traits he doesn't have, and why you like him, why you don't like him, whatever. But I don't have a problem with where he was drafted. Because if you liked him, don't wait around and miss out on him later to somebody else.
Don't play games. Exactly. Just get him. Just grab him.
And so that's kind of where we're at with this. So I'm just going to give these quarterbacks to you in the order in which I have them graded out. And number 1 for me is without a doubt Cam Ward. And to me, watching through all these quarterbacks, it's not even close. And there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, you saw Cam Ward in person.
I saw him in person, and to me, he stood out as the guy that looked most like he looked most NFL ready and the most can make a difference in the NFL because he was making throws that are like that's a throw you don't see in college, and that's something a little oh a Patrick Mahomes type of throw. Kind of like throwing across the body and catching guys that are open, but a normal quarterback just can't make that throw. And he was making those type of throws. He was extending drives that seemed to be unextendable. And I in the Florida game I was at, and just go watch the tape of the Cal game. That was another game I completely watched and invested. He was extending drives and extending plays that it's getting into that kind of the Vince Young territory of how this guy is playing on a different plane than everybody else. And again, you got to keep that in perspective that you're playing college. Most college kids are not going to the NFL, but I saw the arm strength. I saw the a little bit of a gunslinger kind of mentality, a little Jameis in that, but not as reckless as a Jameis was.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with just about all of that, right? I mean, one of the things that stands out to me right away is he has the most command of any of these guys at the line of scrimmage. He is standing there pre-snap, and that's including Shedeur, everybody. He is the most command at the line of scrimmage. He's got everything under control. He looks incredibly calm at all times. Very calm, confident in the pocket, stands strong, doesn't bail prematurely. He can move and scramble. It's just not really part of it's not a huge part of his game. The thing about Cam that I think stands out uniquely among all of these quarterbacks in the year is really just something you don't even have to watch this film for. It's just the way he rose. This is a walk-on at Incarnate Ward that moved slowly up division by division by division, and all along 65% completion rate, 64% completion rate, 67 completion rate, 67 completion rate. All of these with huge chunk yards, 4,000, 3,200, 3,700, 4,300. At every step of competition, Cam Ward not only belonged, but performed exceptionally. On top of that, you have, I'm not going to count the Incarnate Ward, but at the ACC level, led a 10-3 team. So on top of that, he's a winner. He's always got low interception count, high touchdown count. I think the closest ever was 23 touchdowns to 9 interceptions is not the greatest. But this past year, 39 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
I think his game though, that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, some quarterbacks,
100%, yeah.
They throw 3 picks because you're not challenging yourself. You're not. He's threading needles because he can in college. And okay, there may be slightly more picks than you would love to see just from a number standpoint, but you'll take that one pick if it gets you those 3 completions, one that becomes a touchdown, one extends a drive. Incarnate Ward, by the way, a little fun fact. You know where it is?
I thought it was in Texas, isn't it?
San Antonio.
Yeah.
I was driving on the way to the Dome the other. I'm like, oh, there's Incarnate Ward. There you go. So,
you're 100% right. But the other thing too is that like he's bounced around from like 4 different schools, always moving upwards, always getting increased competition, and I would assume more and more complex offenses, and never really seemed to have a problem.
Are we living in an age now where that doesn't bother you in the least that he transferred 3 times or 2 times?
I think it depends on the nature. It depends on the nature of it. You know what I mean? I think that there are plenty of, for instance, we're going to talk about Kyle McCord later, moving from Ohio State to Syracuse. I think it's great to move to a place where you're actually going to play. You know what I mean? I've never had a problem with people leaving Alabama. We're going back now 10 years. People who left Alabama just because it's like, hey, I've been sitting on the bench. I'm afraid that I'm only going to get a shot my senior year, and what if I bust my shoulder? You know what I mean? Like, at least I can get 3 years of tape at UCF. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. That makes sense to me. It depends. You know what I mean? I'll take all of them as they go. I think at the quarterback position especially, it's just good to be bouncing around to the different offenses, seeing different defenses. You move from like the Big 12 to the SEC, you're seeing completely different styles of defense, both of which styles you'll see in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I think fans have to realize that when you have a blue chip guy coming in, or like I can't miss guy, he's looking at 3 years down the road. It'd be great to win in college. It'd be great to become a legacy at a school, but this to them is if you look at a project plan, this is the first line of the project plan, and the bottom is draft day. And how do I navigate myself to get to the league as fast as I can, so I can look the best and minimize injury, minimize damage to my brand, all those different things. So for someone like this who starts off at a tiny school, Incarnate Ward, then goes to the remnants of the Pac-12, to the ACC, that's a natural progression. And I think 10 years ago that would be looked at as, this guy is selfish and only looking out for himself. But I think now it's just part of the game. And
I think now it's people thinking that they're doing what's best for their future.
And I think everybody should. I mean, everybody thinks that, well, I'm a fan of school X. Your goal in life is to make sure that I'm happy. No, it's to make sure that you're following your dream, you're maximizing your potential, and you're maximizing how much money you can make. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we would all do it in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, there is, of course, like I said, I'm take them all on their own. Not just a general at face value. There certainly could be this guy's just not a team player. That could be a thing. In this case, I think he was always challenging himself and moving up a level of competition and whatever. So, but I mean, to your point, so in terms of his game, the throws are incredible. He certainly has a good arm. I do think it's not perfect. Like I said, not one of these guys should be starting day one. And Cam Ward, to me, in an ideal world, I would have him sitting for a while. To me, he would be starting when Michael Penix started, somewhere in the late middle of the season.
I'm kind of old school. I kind of think every quarterback should do that, to be very honest.
I mean, so I would say I'm old school. I think people are just spoiled from a generation in which there were too many guys that could skip that step. All happened at the same time. But really, Eli Manning didn't start day one. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning is without a doubt a franchise caliber quarterback who came from a prestigious SEC school with good numbers at school. He was a good prospect. And in this class, probably would be the best quarterback in this class. I don't really remember his college tape well enough to compare it to these guys, and the game is kind of different and whatever. But the point remains.
Yeah. He was the number one pick in the draft for sure. I mean, I don't think he wasn't as impressive to me as Peyton was in college. Even, but like he was still like, you could see he had good mechanics. You could see, this guy is going to be a career NFL quarterback, someone that's going to be a cornerstone guy.
Yeah, and remember, Jameis Winston was a first-round pick, first overall. Did he beat out Mariota?
Overall. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I knew him and Mariota went 1-2. I couldn't remember how it went, but yeah, and here he is, a career backup now. He's right. Not really an NFL starter. So when I say that, there are things that he does that need to be cleaned up. I mean, for starters, the footwork can be way too casual at times. I said he's very calm and confident in the pocket. I would like a little bit more bounce in his step. His footwork gets a little lazy at times.
That's coachable, though.
Everything right. About what I'm going to say about him is absolutely coachable. He does some really cool things. He can throw at odd arm angles to avoid tipped passes and stuff like that. But I will say,
that was my point.
Yeah, and that's definitely cool. And he can really sling it downfield. But I do think at times he has a really fluid and like a beautiful throwing arc and whatever. And I'm not trying to criticize it. It's good at times. Other times, I really think that it needs to be on a rope. He got away with some long passes in college that just hung in the air and the safety couldn't get over there in time. In the NFL, that's not going to fly. He's going to have to rip that shit in there. And he can. He's going to have to know when to do it and when he can hang things in the air. I think that he's definitely disciplined post-snap. He's not often too fooled by coverages, but he's confident enough to not panic. He doesn't really bail on the pocket until it's, actually breaking down. But to your credit, too, there is definitely some bad Jameis in him. When the play breaks down, he starts operating off script. And he doesn't give up on a play, to his credit, but that's where you start seeing the hokey college shit that you think you can get away with because you got throwing across your body, moving to the left, throwing to the right. That is a fucking interception in the NFL 9 times out of 10. And
So it's
a lot of that stuff. I also think that sometimes his internal clock in the pocket is a little too, I don't want to say slow, but it's not an NFL internal clock. He's going to have to move. These guys move way faster in the NFL.
So the bottom line is a lot of these things are coachable things we can coach out of, and the question is going to be, we don't know, is he coachable?
Right.
You can, and that's, it's tough to tell when you're going to three different programs and three different sets of coaches and probably, four coordinators out of all that. You don't know. So I mean that's a big unknown, and Tennessee's going to find out if he's a coachable guy.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're not hearing anything that says he isn't.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, that's where. So like, I can only do what I can do, right? At the end of the day, a lot of the stuff, especially with quarterbacks, is going to happen in those interview rooms and those top 30 visits and stuff. That's up to the team to do their due diligence then and there. And I can't replicate that watching film. But you're 100% right. To me, Cam Ward would be a first overall pick. I think he's a perfect fit for the Giants.
Do I don't like him.
I don't know that you really need Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston for Cam Ward to work out, but it's like a dream scenario for him where he can truly sit back, absorb the NFL game. Remember, he's only got 1 year at Power 5-ish level.
2 years.
Was he at Eastern Washington or Washington State?
Washington State.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
would think, looking at my crystal ball, if we were to draft a Ward, let's just use Ward example. I think Jameis is gone. Or maybe,
no, I don't think so.
Even Russell. I don't think they're keeping all three if they do draft a quarterback. I think they.
Oh, I do.
I think.
Yeah.
I think they kept it two as their kind of. We think this is the way this is going to play out, but if a best case scenario, we were to get our hands on Ward, we can do something. We can.
Oh, for specifically just Ward or any third quarterback in the draft?
Ward.
Yeah.
Ward.
Yeah, and I think they knew that, and I think.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. I mean,
no.
You have to pivot to the situation on the ground. The Atlanta situation last year. They signed what's his name, and then they drafted Penix, and that changed. The situation changed. They were able to draft him. He was available. They took him. So you can't just say, well, that was our move, and we're just going to base everything based on that move. You have to be fluid and catch some heat for doing it too.
Yeah.
And if he's available, I think you get him, and then you worry about it after the fact.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right, and I think they know that at this point, because remember, Russell Wilson wasn't signed, in January. So, he was one of the later free agent signings, and I think they know that there's just no chance to trade with Tennessee. Tennessee wants him.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they need a quarterback.
If the Giants love him, they can blow Tennessee away with an offer, I'm sure, because Cam Ward is not Peyton Manning.
Right.
But I agree with you. I think Russell Wilson's there because they know they don't have a shot at Cam Ward. So rather than continuing to talk about a guy they're not going to get, this is really the one. Shedeur Sanders, Colorado. I do have him ranked second. It's a lot closer to 3 than I think people realize, at least for me. Sanders is 100% not NFL ready day one. He's definitely a workable NFL quarterback with development. But I mean, we're going to take Deion completely off the table in this discussion. I'm strictly talking about the player on the field. He's 23. He's got 4 years of starting experience, which is incredibly, that's great. A lot of quarterbacks don't. I know 2 of them are at Jackson State, but even so, statistically, he stayed pretty even at all times with his completion percentages. Not as even as Cam Ward, but at times higher. This past year, it was over 70%. But again, Shedeur Sanders has the benefit of having to work with getting to work with Pat Shurmur this last year. I mean, they should have been kind of better. I don't really want to get down that route, but like when you consider all the resources behind that, they were really not that great.
Well, they don't have more resources than we do.
No, I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
but I mean, like even within, they almost lost to North Dakota State. The fucking Nebraska film is disgusting. I'm gonna tell you right now. That was one of the worst films I had to watch for this quarterback.
It's really hard to turn a program around on a dime, and that's what he did. I give Deion more credit than I probably would ever because he's Deion for the fact that they're in a position there that that was an atrocious program. That was a
Oh
rotting
yeah,
away program, and he's made him relevant. Not just relevant, meaning he's selling out stadiums and coming on TV, but they are now a relevant football team on the field.
sure.
One thing I do want to say about Dion, though, I think people have to kind of know the reality of it is people are like, oh, well, Dion's going to have something to say about this and be a pain in the ass dad. He just signed a massive extension at Colorado. He has a full-time job that he's not going away. He's not going to have time to be, on the sidelines being an asshole watching his son. He's going to be doing his own thing. So I think the Dion fear, now that he's signed, now that it's known he's staying there, he's not going to follow his son along. He's not going to become the coach of the Cowboys if the Cowboys draft him or any of that bullshit. He's got his own thing now. So I think the Dion effect
Rebuttal.
is going to be less than people think.
Rebuttal. They're going to ask him anyway. Media's going to ask him anyway, so he's absolutely going to have an answer. He's not going to. I seriously doubt that he's going to just be like, I have my own thing to worry about for forever.
Yeah, but
maybe first couple times, but eventually he's going to say something.
He'll say something, but I think it's different him saying something than opposed to him being around.
Just saying,
being in his ear all the time.
Of course.
So,
well, perception. I don't know.
First take, we'll talk about it for 3 hours straight, but I think he's not going to be a helicopter dad who's, because he has his past, because his son he's going to be a.
No, I 100%. You're saying that like with 100%, he's not gonna, and I'm more. It totally could happen. 100%. I have no idea. He's never coached anyone that's not his son. How do you know he's not going to be in his ear?
Oh. Well, I know he's not going to be on the sideline during practice. Not
of course, yes, but
so
is he going to be on the phone with him every night? Like, oh man, you wouldn't believe what Coach had me doing. Oh man, that's not good. You know what I mean?
Possible.
Exactly, and so that's where it ends for me. I don't want to go down that route, but I hear what you're saying, but I also think that anyone saying 100% left or right on that issue is talking out their ass.
My point is, like, he's not going to be the constant presence, omnipresent. He's not going to be like the like Matthew McConaughey on the sidelines with Texas, that type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, he might be behind the scene, but I think even that blunts it a little bit from what it potentially could be if he was just an unemployed, guy and just his life is being around his son.
Maybe. I don't know. I see. I'm not willing to make that same level of confidence in that. I don't know. I know he signed a massive extension with Colorado, but after 2 years there, he might have enough money where he can walk out on the rest of the deal, and I don't know. So I'm not going down that route. Dion is irrelevant to Shedeur for me right now. But so in terms of his game, pure pocket passer with some mobility, and I say some because in Shedeur's mind, I think he has a lot more mobility than he does. He way vastly overestimates his athleticism, and he gets caught doing really stupid shit. And again, Cam Ward took like a 20-yard sack starting on the 5-yard line one time. So I'm not trying to rail on Shedeur, but Shedeur does it a lot more, where he really thinks that he's running around and he gets caught. He's not faster than the guys at the college level. And remember, college level, Cam Ward was seeing harder competition than a lot of what Shedeur was seeing. Again, talking about North Dakota State, Nebraska, all those teams. But Shedeur runs a very controlled offense with or without Pat Shurmur, with usually very good decisions based on very strong pre-snap reading ability. Very, very smart at the line of scrimmage. Very good at understanding what he sees. I think he reads defense as well. I think he knows how to put the ball in playmakers' hands. I disagree with the notion that Travis Hunter makes Shedeur Sanders. I certainly think that any good receiver makes a quarterback look better, but I don't think Shedeur Sanders' success is entirely due to Travis Hunter elevating Colorado. I just don't believe that.
I mean, fine, he'll have Malik Neighbors here if he comes here, so that's
exactly. There's that too. I think that he's generally pretty good accuracy. There's some detail issues with precision, and I think that happens a little bit commonly downfield. But
let me ask you a question then. With that, there's a difference between accuracy and precision. Do you think that he's a guy who forces things because he thinks he's more precise than he is, or
no? I just think it falls off.
Does he play within his accuracy? Does he know his accuracy constraints, or you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. So his accuracy isn't really a problem. Generally speaking, the ball is in the area of the receiver. The precision of ball placement is not always where it should be. In the short and intermediate range, I think that he's actually pretty good, and the only time it seems to fall off is it feels like to me that it's because the ball is kind of hanging in the air. And it's the one thing that you can absolutely criticize Shedeur for. There is a general lack of zip on the throws. He does not really throw lasers. And when you get to be downfield, that's when you start seeing the precision further and further off. Again, not inaccurate, but just, receivers got to contort his body. It makes life a little bit harder for his receivers. And I think it has more to do with not his eyes and anticipating where the ball should be. I think it has to do with the arm. I think the arm's strength is not up to the same par as other guys. And I think that's, for me, that, and then the fact that he is a conservative decision maker. And when you combine all of the other things with Shedeur, to me, this is not a day one ready quarterback. But also, I think if you get the most out of him, he'll never be like a big time chance taker downfield. Where it's like, I was a fan of Eli Manning. I didn't care that Eli had high interception totals because they also came with, he's throwing in a one-on-one situation down the sideline. It got picked, but there was a 50% chance that it was going to be a touchdown. I would rather that than dinking and dunking constantly. The way we've been seeing, honestly, I don't want to draw comparisons to Daniel Jones directly, but just that kind of offense where everything is always just right there in front of the sticks and just we're going to matriculate. You got to throw downfield. And it's got to be a part of your game. You got to want to do it, not just this is a shot play. Like, I see my advantage. I see this matchup. I'm going downfield on this play.
You said something. He's not day one ready. That to me is not as important as he.
No, true.
Is he day one potential? Like, can he be someone that's like worthy of day one? Day one ready doesn't matter to me. I mean, if he needs to sit on the bench for half a year or a year and learn and practice and get his reps in, that's fine. Mm-hmm. The question is like, is he someone that's worthy of a pick that high? Someone, or he has the potential to get there?
What do you mean by a pick that high? What do you mean?
I mean, we're talking about a 3. If he goes to 3, because
if you like him, you take him where you have your pick. If you're picking 5th, you pick him at 5th. If you're picking 10th, pick him at 10th.
That's two different things, though. But like, in your opinion, you say he may not be day one ready, but do you think he has the potential to be a worthy number 3 pick? Do you think?
I think that question really is he a franchise quarterback?
Kind of.
Yeah. And I think he can be. He's just not the kind of quarterback that I want to build my franchise around. I think he's closer to Brock Purdy than he is, Tom Brady.
Oh, I would make that.
Well, I mean, whatever. I don't know. Pick a.
He's closer to Brock Purdy than he is to Cam Ward. How about that?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Tom Brady he's a unicorn just where he was picked and what he became. He's like
Tom Brady was a bad one, but I don't know, but like Brock Purdy is a guy with he's got the right timing. I think they're different skill sets. I think Shedeur is smarter at the line of scrimmage. I think he's very intelligent coming out of college for what he does at the line of scrimmage and stuff. Mm-hmm. But just in terms of the amount of traits he has and what he can develop and what I don't think is ever going to develop from him. Same with Brock Purdy. There are some things I don't think are ever going to develop further for him. For Shedeur, I don't think he's ever going to be, and this is my opinion, I'm projecting here. Maybe I'm wrong. Happy to be wrong. But I don't think he's ever going to get a gunslinger mentality where he's going to take shots downfield when he sees it. He's going to take it when they're called.
If the Giants draft him at 3, your initial reaction is?
So the Giants are in a position to take a guy like this, that they don't need to start right away, and that they can, work. To me, this isn't the kind of quarterback that I would want to go after, but this is definitely a workable guy. And he can sit for the whole year. In fact, he will. There's no way he's outplaying Russell Wilson, no. And even if Russell Wilson gets hurt, I don't think he's jumping ahead of Jameis Winston on any depth charts. I think the Giants are in a position to take a guy who can sit the entire year, and that's the ideal scenario for someone like Shedeur. There's a lot that needs to be cleaned up, and for starters, listen, dude, you couldn't escape pressure all the time in college. You're not doing it in the NFL. Stop thinking that you're going to bail out of things and stop playing hero. Learn to give up on a play. It's got to happen, and I think that those are some of the biggest things with him. Now, I want to pivot a little bit to Jackson Dart, who's my close third. For
I saw
me,
him in person too. Yeah.
for me personally, this is the style of quarterback I would rather build my franchise around. I'm admitting that he is not closer to being ready than Shedeur. Um, some of that is stuff that I just can't. I can't under. I won't be able to uh, gather that evidence, and it's because it comes out of the offense he comes out of, which I think is an unfair criticism against him. You know that Lane Kiffin offense is fake kind of position. I understand it, and it makes understanding what Jackson Dart can do harder, but it's not his fault. To me, that's the same as drafting a helmet. Oh, Daniel Jones went to Duke. What quarterbacks ever came out of Duke? Silly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that Jackson Dart can't do these things. It's just that the offense allows for an easy life for him. Um, for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure Deshaun Watson only read half the field in college too, and I had that as a mark against him that I didn't think he was ever going to be able to read a field, and I was totally fucking wrong. Deshaun Watson was absolutely an NFL quarterback for quite a while. In terms of Jackson Dart, another thing is this is a player that's grown through 3 highly successful years operating a high percentage, high completion, up-tempo offense in the SEC. So yeah, I know the offense is kind of fake, but it's not like he has only 1 year showing that he can do it. It's 3 years where he did this. You know what I mean? And comparisons to Matt Corral, Matt Corral had drug problems. You know what I mean? There's other issues there. So there's I think there's a lot of unnecessary critique of Jackson Dart. I think that the within the play decisions are strong. There's a nice blend of shot taking and then the safe high completion, quick decision making stuff. I think it's the outside the play tape that can be poor at times where he's making some shitty decisions. But I do think he has a winner mentality. I think he stands strong in the pocket at times. He runs like a man. He runs like Daniel Jones in terms of he's not afraid of contact. Not at all. He'll run into guys. That's fine. He scans the whole field and he feels the pocket at an above average level, I would say, without panicking prematurely. The offense doesn't make him read the field, but when the play breaks down, he's capable. So that's what I see from him. And what I think he does better than Shedeur is I think that he does take his shots when he sees them. And I also think he just has the better arm. There's more zip on it. He throws it in the window. Is he as accurate? It's close, but no. But I think that he throws the tight window throws better than Shedeur ever will be just because of the strength. I don't think that Shedeur is going to be able to fire it in there in time without that window closing.
I'll have a counter to it was Lane Kiffin's offense. It's kind of gimmicky. It props up quarterbacks. Who was the Super Bowl MVP last year?
Like Jalen Hurts last year or the year before that?
Yeah. Jalen Hurts. He was quarterback at Alabama when Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator the year he got fired in the championship game. So, just because you're playing under a gimmicky offense and a quarterback friendly offense in college does not mean you're as good as you are because of that offense. You can be successful, So I don't want I that's something that think beyond just the Lane Kiffin influence for a quarterback like him. I saw him in person against Florida, and it was interesting. After the game, they saw him on TV. He was caught crying, and he caught a lot of grief from that. And some people are like, oh, that's going to hurt him and stuff. See,
I don't care about that
I
shit.
think that's the exact. I think it's actually the exact opposite. To me, I want someone who cares so bad that if you lose one game, that to the point that you are crying. And I think that's something that's kind of missing in a lot of these guys who are coming out of the draft is like, do you like this game that you're playing, or are you just in this as a, this is my vocation as a quarterback. I'm going to make money on it. So that to me was something that I actually came away from that like, this guy's a gamer, and this guy just wants to win, and he's all in. So that was something that really struck me from that. I saw a guy that looked a little, again, one game, small sample size, heat of the moment of a game, got a little frustrated in the fourth quarter of that Florida game. Maybe a couple ill-advised throws that maybe weren't the smartest things ever. But again, you're caught up in the heat of the moment. And also, Lane Kiffin may help you with his offense, but he's also a bad coach and may hurt you overall with some decision making.
I would agree with
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I came away, of the quarterbacks I saw, I had him actually as I had him as honestly number 3 on the quarterbacks that I saw this year.
Yeah.
And I had to go back. Ward was number 1 on my list.
Well, also I would say Florida had a defense that came on slowly. They didn't start the year the best.
That's correct.
They came on slowly, and also they ran a defense that I don't want to say that. I want to say probably more complex and quarterback baity, right?
Yes.
Than a
Yes.
lot of other defenses in the. I'm speaking like an idiot right now, but
No, you're not.
you know what I
You're
mean?
absolutely right. It's a quarterback, and that's exactly what the defense really struggled with in the first half of the year. If we're going to say that, it was better when they played Ole Miss in November with Dart. Cam Ward benefited from having a defense in complete disarray in
Oh
week
yeah,
1.
and you could see it too. It was like communication issues
Oh,
and stuff like
what
that.
a mess.
And again, this isn't like Cam Ward had it easy. It's just I think Jackson Dart had it a little bit harder, and also the way that game was ending and the way it unfolded for him. I would rather go down if I'm going to lose. I'd rather lose that way. It's not
Yes.
like they were doing like 2-yard things and trying to break tackles. They were throwing downfield.
They're trying to win.
He got caught.
Yeah.
He tried to throw something he didn't have. Got picked. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose throwing into the end zone than doing 15 dump off passes that I couldn't get close enough to score. It's just that's me. So again, if it's me picking. And I want to pick a guy to build a franchise around that can sit behind Russell Wilson for an entire year and, gets Jameis Winston. There's no impetus for him to play. If Russell Wilson gets hurt, Jackson Dart is not going in. I'm picking Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders, and it's simply because of the kind of guy that I think he is based on what I've watched. Never met either of these guys. Probably never going to meet either of these guys. So it's nothing personal. It's just that's how I feel when I watch them.
Okay.
And I also think that there's an unfair criticism that he doesn't have a singular elite trait, and that's true. But I think a lot of quarterbacks don't have a single. I don't think Brock Purdy has a singular elite trait. I don't think Shedeur Sanders does. People will say accuracy, but I think that's comes with the conservatism that he threw in.
Yeah, agreed.
Man, we're talking. I'm sorry. Kyle McCord, Syracuse. This is another one way higher up on my board than I thought. Didn't think he would be above Jalen Milroe until I watched him. 23 years old, Jersey guy, so he's already really good. Pure pocket passer. 2 years of a winning team with consistent accuracy, air attack for big yardage, and a focus on downfield 50-50 balls and timing shots over the middle. High TD totals. This is a transfer from Ohio State, so this is not a pure Syracuse guy. He was recruited by Ohio State, moved over to Syracuse. In my opinion, this was to get a chance to play, right? This is kind of what I was talking about before, guys leaving Alabama for UCF, etc. Man, McCord does a lot of things I really do like. I think that he's solid with anticipation and placement, ball placement in the short and intermediate. Even in the middle of the field, I think he sees the middle of the field well. He does a ton pre-snap. And what he does that's my favorite among these guys pre-snap is he can identify his one-on-ones and his advantages. He'll see his one-on-ones and he knows it right then and there, and that's where he's going to go. How he is post-snap, I don't know. Sometimes he throws 50, but he throws a good 50-50 ball. He throws good back shoulders. He throws very well in rhythm. This is all things that give your receivers the chance to be better than the DB guarding them. So it's not Tom Brady back there making the rest of the team good. This is a guy that's like, I have talent all around me. Why don't you guys do here? I'll give. Yeah. This is your chance. Go. And it's kind of what Eli did.
And I think sometimes we focus too much on, it's all the quarterback, the pre-snap read, the throw, the accuracy, all this stuff. It's like, well, wait a minute. Who are you throwing? Having elite receivers, and we have an elite receiver in training right now in Neighbors that, you're not relying on your quarterback to do all these different things. So something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the part where he looks the worst is when the play breaks down. Thinking on his feet, he doesn't stand up the same way as Ward or Shedeur. Mm-hmm. I don't think he has the athleticism that some of those guys have, and certainly not the athleticism Milroe to figure something else out. When the play breaks down, it's kind of
How
over.
how important is that to you in the modern NFL?
I know that it's like it almost feels trendy to feel that that is something you need to have. I think that as long as your quarterback knows when to give up, and as long as he knows how to move in the pocket, right? So that he can make the most out of an imperfect pocket. So basically, if the right tackle and the right guard completely blow a twist, and you've got two guys coming from the right hand side, if you can step up in the pocket away from the pressure, slide away from them, and keep your eyes downfield, that's something. If you can't, if you're not so athletic that you can outrun them or break a tackle, you know what I mean, and flip the guy over and all this other stuff, it's really cool that Lamar Jackson can just take off and get 60 yards. And
he's a but he's a unicorn though.
Well,
That's not
Jaden Daniels can do it too.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes kind of does it too. Josh Allen kind of does it too. But I don't think you need that. I think as long as you can move in the pocket and you know when to give up on a play, I think that makes up for that. You know what I mean? So it's not an elite trait, big deal. You know what I mean? What else can you do? I don't think today's NFL has changed to make that a requirement. I think today's NFL has tricked people into thinking that it might be a requirement and that it's a detriment that's what I'll say. It's not a requirement, but it's a mark against you that you can't do that. I think as long as you know what to do when the play breaks down, that's good enough. The fact that you're not a super athlete is irrelevant.
Gotcha.
Not for nothing, won an ACC championship this year. So, I think that Kyle McCord is someone that really is not just the fact that he's from Jersey. It's not just the Syracuse guy. It's not just because, Shedeur Sanders' dad is an unlikable guy for a lot of people or whatever. Legitimately, he moved up from what I thought would be the sixth best quarterback in my thing to, whatever, third, fourth.
Day two potential or?
Yeah, I mean, I would rank him as like a Brock Purdy, like late day 2, early day 3. But the reality is, if you like him and you are in the situation, like sort of
so
like.
anyways, so wait, hold on a minute. So when you said a day 2 Brock Purdy, you mean like you think right now Brock Purdy's what he is right now is the equivalent of a day 2 guy? Because remember, he was at the end of day 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Brock Purdy's more than that now because he's had experience in the NFL system. He sees NFL defenses at this point. You're getting more than that. But, I mean, just coming out of school, Brock Purdy was a guy who commanded, was it Purdue? Where the hell was he? Iowa State. I watched that Iowa State film. I was watching, were there 2 receivers there or whatever? I wrote down, like, this quarterback is really good, actually. Mm-hmm. He operated a very successful team, and you could see it. He had good timing. He knew how to place the ball. He understood the defenses he was looking against. He just wasn't the best athlete, and I don't know. Maybe it's the school. I have no idea why nobody liked him at all. But yeah, I would have. Yeah, there's that too.
I think those measurables, they really come back to bite you. You have so much time.
How small is he?
He's not that tall. How tall is he?
Neither is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is my height.
Than him. He seems smaller in Baker Mayfield.
I don't think he's shorter than 6 feet, dude.
Let's see. He just seems like a little guy.
He's thinner for sure.
6'1". 6'1".
Yeah.
All right.
So he's taller than Baker.
He just looks smaller. Huh.
Jalen Milroe. Quickly on Milroe.
Yeah.
First thing, he's 22. All right, so this is a young guy. Plenty of time. But my biggest things with him, this is a super athlete. This is a Lamar Jackson style runner. And it's incredible to watch. It's actually a lot of fun to watch. Mm-hmm. Super elusive too. A lot of different ways to be elusive, whether it's pump fakes downfield or high stepping or just juking in general, spin moves. Not just fast. He's got a lot of elusivity to his game. Biggest thing for me, with that cannon of an arm he has, I think he only throws one speed. There's not a lot of evidence of touch passes. It's in fact the short throws where he looks the worst. And I think it's just because he's always throwing fastballs. Always. And that's something that's got to be tempoed down. And I don't know if I believe this, and I'm not enough of a quarterback to tell you. People have said that some people just can't do that. So if that's the case, then it's a never for him. But I don't know
Yeah.
if I believe that. But I mean, the other thing, honestly, is going to be the reading the field thing with him. It's not that he can't. It's just the other thing too. When you have that Lamar Jackson style elusivity, you're just always going to bank on that. And you're never, it's going to be so hard, and it's going to be on self-discipline for him to teach himself to stand tall and continue reading the film, the field, and see things and not just bail and always rely on that. And also, what was the game? Oklahoma beat the shit out of them. You know how they did it?
Yeah.
Disciplined defense completely erases his ability to break the pocket. Every time he tried to run, and he tries to run kind of early, same way like Colin Kaepernick used to, it's not there, he's tucking it and running. They strung him out laterally. And even though he'll take on contact, he's not going to he's always going to try and run to the hashes, and they just kept getting him out of bounds. 3-yard gains, 4-yard gains, nothing crazy, and they lost bad.
It kind of feels like one of those quarterbacks where you have to design an offense around him, like kind of like Lamar Jackson a little bit, right? Like a really good quarterback. I think you kind of this guy is perfect for our system. We're gonna go for someone like a guy like him. It's like I got to tweak this around what he does best, what his tendencies are, and I don't know if we want to do that.
And for what it's worth, Lamar was put in a really good situation for him to slowly develop what he needed to develop. He was immediately put into a run-heavy offense. And not just him. I mean, it utilized what he did well while also allowing him to throw the ball. But they oh my God, I'm blanking on the offensive coordinator's name. Roman. Oh, I keep wanting to say Roman Oben, and that's definitely not right.
It's not Roman. No.
Greg Roman.
Greg Roman.
Yeah, very, very run-heavy offense. And I think that gave him time to be a starter, see NFL defenses, but not have the game on his shoulders to throw.
And also had a head coach that had all the capital in the world that he can, he wasn't under any hot seats or any produce now type of thing. I think he already won a Super Bowl by that point and was just kind of like, I have enough credibility that I can let this guy, mature.
Right. And they really did give him the best possible start to his career, in my opinion. To me, he's a long haul, though. I mean, this is like sit next year and the year after kind of thing with Milroe. That's my opinion. Even with Lamar, I mean, he was a first-round pick. I don't think anyone thinks Milroe's so he's starting from further down the ladder, in my opinion. Last guy, I'm not going to spend too much time on, but Tyler Shuck from Louisville. Yeah, interesting talking about Lamar Jackson. Another developmental guy. Didn't think I was going to like him much because I did see him at the Senior Bowl, and none of the QBs. I saw Dart there too, but none of the QBs really blew me away there. But I was a little surprised at some of his film. It was actually pretty damn good. Generally stands pretty confident in the pocket. Doesn't really run a ton, but he has wheels, like surprising amount of wheels. The first play I watched of him, the play didn't go the way he thought, and I watched him scan the entire field, go through his entire progressions, work back to the front side, and then make a throw. I was like, whoa, okay. The thing that jumps right off to you, though, he's much older than everybody. He's 25 with only one full schedule year of experience. Because in 2020, abridged year, 2021, broken collarbone, 2022, shoulder injury, 2023, broken leg. Huge red flag for me, all of them.
Oh God, forget. Even if it's one thing if he was 25 but played minor league baseball for 3 years, like Wenke or one of those type of guys. But for for a team that has been struggling with the injury bug for years, is, I don't know if that's necessarily what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think he's got some other things, like he can be a little bit too conservative, and sometimes he just doesn't trust what he sees, and he's right, and he just doesn't pull the trigger. I think that's probably coachable, maybe. I'd rather coach overconfidence out of somebody than coach confidence into somebody, but it's pretty clear that he's seeing it, because you can see him kind of, he wants to do it, and he just didn't do it. Just do it, man. Just throw it. If you get a pick, whatever. Who cares? Just throw it. At least there's that, but... yeah, I don't know. Shuck, to me, is too far down the line for the Giants. I think that there is a possibility, a really, really stretch of a possibility for Milroe to work out for the Giants. Less than 5%. But Shuck, I think, is just a no-go for the Giants entirely. I think that he's destined for another team where he can kind of sit for a while and maybe he becomes a backup quarterback or something. That's just the way I see it.
Right before we leave, there's one guy who I saw that in person I thought was pretty impressive in person. He was kind of throwing to air in that game, but it was Quinn Ewers of Texas. Do you have any like a real quick elevator pitch on him or?
I mean, I don't know what happened because there's so much that changed in his film from year to year, and he just kind of went off a cliff, based on when he first hit the scene. I don't know what happened with him, and honestly didn't do enough of a deep dive watch on him. But that is my critique right there, is that he fell so far off that he wasn't one of the top 6 guys I wanted to really, really, really watch.
From maybe an NFL project perspective, he might have fell off, but he still probably has the most popular heralded backup quarterback breathing down his neck for 2 years.
And he wouldn't get seated for him, yeah.
Right. So that's something.
I would say that there's a couple guys that I probably want to refresh myself on, like the day before, the day of draft. And I would say from the quarterback room, the 2 guys that I don't have like a super big understanding of would be Ewers and Will Howard. I wish that I had time to really do Will Howard. So that he's going to be a draft kind of day, draft week kind of guy that I check out.
Well, it's a good thing you're going to be on a lot of other programs. You can discuss this in more detail.
Yeah, exactly. So in a couple of hours, I'm sitting down with Mr. Bobby Skinner of the new Giants Nation show to discuss these quarterbacks, actually. So that is airing the same day as you're listening to this. So you're probably listening to this after that. So
a double dose of Grump. Wow,
I know.
Guys.
I know.
I think there's a bar down the street if you need to medicate after, so go for it.
Yeah. So, Bobby's got a new show. You're already supporting Talking Giants. Continue to do so. Give him all the help he can get, starting from scratch. That's, I'm trying my best here, and like and subscribe if you're into us too, huh? So.
Yeah, no kidding. Support all the shows. I mean, we have more shows to watch, and that's the bottom line. Is we want, there's more and more Giant content, and it's not a competition. We're all, these are all good programs. So support them all, listen to them all, become the smartest fans in the NFL.
Yep. All right, guys. We will see you next week, probably at our regular scheduled Tuesday morning.
I got a lot more free time now, Grump, so I can do the show whenever you want.
All right, yeah. So our regularly scheduled Tuesday morning, we will get into the larger side of the offense and how that affects the draft and all that stuff. So we've done our quarterback specific. We're going to go in a larger offense and wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, offensive line, that sort of thing. So we are coming up on the draft. So we've got offense and then we've got defense following that.
Woo! Let's go.
All right, everybody. We will see you next time. Until then, go Giants.
Go Giants.